All right, you guys. I'm super excited for today's podcast because we have Sarah Sturm for you guys. Thanks so much, Sarah, for joining us.
Hello, I'm so excited too. This is going to be very fun.
It is. Yeah. I was telling Amanda, I was like, this is one of our podcast guests where I'm like, I'm not stressing out beforehand. We totally just get to relax and like chat. Like, this is gonna be so
Oh,
fun.
good. Yeah,
Yes.
I said
So
before, I'm good at talking.
perfect. So let's see. Our listeners heard your bio already, and they know the routine. We're gonna do our two truths and a lie first. See if you can stump me. After working together for what almost a year going into this. So,
Yeah.
go ahead and break that down for us.
Hey, I don't think I've told you any of these, so
Okay.
it might be kind of hard for you. I'm just saying.
Okay.
All right. I was on the winning New Mexico State jump rope team, the New Mexican Jumping Beans. That's
Okay.
one. I practiced Brazilian martial arts for 5 years.
Okay.
I was the 10 to 12-year-old state breaststroke champion.
Okay.
Hmm.
This is all good. The jump rope thing is
I really want that to be true.
I think that would be such a cool story if it was true.
I just
The
really want it to be true.
I have to
jumping
put my
beans.
poker face on
Yes.
so badly right now.
Oh my gosh. Brazilian martial arts. I kind of could like see Sarah just like taking somebody out. Breaststroke.
I leaned into
I'm
some weird ones, I'm not gonna
yeah.
lie.
These are all you didn't get
I
any
actually
help
don't
with
know if
these?
I've said any of these yet.
I mean, I've definitely never heard any of these.
One might be on a one of my lifetime Grand Prix baseball cards. It's not called a baseball card.
Oh.
I'm not a baseball player.
We know what you mean. We know what you mean. Athlete
Oh
card.
yeah, one more. I was a baseball player.
Yeah. Fun fact. Okay. I'm like actually very stumped here.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Actually, Kate, Courtney, and I were talking because I think she came on your podcast
Yes.
a while ago, but we were riding together in like February and we were
Oh,
talking about, I did not guess her two truths and a lie correctly, but she's very
yeah.
cunning.
Yes. She had a good poker face too.
Oh, yeah. I was
Man.
like, dang it, dude, you're raising the bar.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, because I want the jump rope thing to be true, I'm not gonna say that's the lie. I want that to be true deep down in my soul. I kind of am gonna lean towards maybe not the swimming. What do you think, Amanda?
I was gonna go with that. I really want also the jump roping thing to be true. I love jump roping.
Fingers crossed, you guys. Okay, well, don't tell us the answer. We're
I
going with
won't.
the breaststroke champ was
Okay,
not the with the lie. So
I see.
we'll leave it there and we'll find out at the end for
All
the
right.
listeners. They heard your bio. Why don't you give us just without revealing maybe some of your truths or lies?
That's not in my bio, don't worry.
Okay. Right. Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about your background. What got you interested, one in the bike, but two in gravel?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's really hard to summarize those things in a quick bio. But yeah, I got really into cycling when I moved to Durango for school. So I got a scholarship, an academic scholarship, which I now know is seldom happens in at
Wow.
Fort Lewis. A lot of the kids on the bike team come to Durango and join Fort Lewis cycling because they're cyclists. And I was
Nice.
like, I came up here actually to play soccer.
Mm.
And yeah, I joined the triathlon club that would have been a good one.
Yeah.
The triathlon club, because
Nice.
I was like, well, I've done two of those sports.
Ooh, was one swimming? Don't tell me.
You don't really do breaststroke and swim
Yeah.
triathlon unless you're not going super great.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, so I joined the triathlon club and I decided I wasn't really into running and swimming. And I
Mm,
was like, I'll just give biking a go. And then, confident little 18-year-old Sarah called up the cycling team and was like, "Hi, I'd like to join the team.
Nice.
What kind of scholarships do you offer?" And they were awesome. They were like, "Oh, cool. We love to have more women on the team. We'll see how you do with the cycling before we give you a scholarship." Because I had like literally zero results. I think I had ridden actually our local road race, the Iron
Nice.
was my only result before
Wow.
that. But yeah, that's how I got into cycling. And
Awesome.
I was truly like by far the worst one on the team. I was riding with my peers who had been in junior programs who
Mm,
had come from lots of other towns in Colorado or mountain bike families and cycling
mm,
families. And though my dad was a cyclist when I was
mm.
growing up, I was just not interested at all in
Yeah.
it. I was interested in other things that I
Yeah.
won't reveal. Um, and yeah, so I just decided that it was kind of like a fun new thing. And then I'm just a naturally incredibly competitive person.
Do you have
So
siblings? You do have,
I
yeah.
do, yeah. I have
Yeah.
a younger sister, and she actually really is not interested in cycling. She lives like 20 minutes from me
Oh,
and owns her
nice.
own business. Yeah.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, she's honestly way cooler than I am. Actually, this is her business's shirt. Hang
Nice. What's her business? Shout it
Yeah,
out.
she just opened a wine and bookstore, and then
Oh,
she has a tattoo parlor upstairs, and it's like wildly successful. Yeah,
badass. That's awesome.
I know, she's
Cool.
amazing. Yeah, and
Wine, books,
she
and
can like
tattoos.
interpret sign language also.
Oh my gosh. That's a
Yeah,
good skill. That's a great skill to have.
way good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Dang.
that's a little bit of my sister's story
Yeah.
too. But yeah,
That's
then I
awesome.
got into cycling because of, college, and it was like the most fun I'd ever had racing my bike. I mean, still to this day that stands. It's like every weekend we were going and traveling
Yeah.
all around the state and competing. And then it was sort of like my first dipping of the toe into like kind of a semi-pro world for me,
Hmm.
like if you made the nationals team, it was really competitive to make the nationals team. And if you did, you were sort of like, I remember calling my dad and just be like, they set my trainer up for me with my bike on it.
Oh my
I
gosh.
felt very, yeah, very
That's
pro.
great.
And yeah, it was just kind of, it became, the thing that I wanted to do, and all my friends did it. So
Yeah. Amazing. So sounds like you started on, was it road bike first and then
yeah, actually, I started, funny enough, the first weekend of school, they shipped us off to the velodrome. So my first
oh,
ever like collegiate or cycling experience was on a fixed gear bike. I
that's
just
wild.
screamed the entire first lap because you're on like I've never
Yeah.
been on a fixie before, and like you
Yes.
can't coast. And yeah, like I mean, I'm a pretty athletic person, so I like was really excited with the challenge of like totally new stuff. And yeah, I actually competed in all of the nationals except for downhill.
Wow.
That was not going to be my journey.
Yeah. Oh man.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, eventually I joined the mountain bike team. So I started with track, and then road was kind of where I was like naturally good. But I
Hmm.
have to say, like, I was the person who I was getting off of my bike to get my water bottle out and
Oh
take a
yeah.
drink. So like I was really, really new, and it would take me longer to descend down road descents than it
Mm.
did for me to go up them. So, and I remember like looking at people's, where their chain was in their cassette to try and map, because I didn't know about
Oh
shifting.
yeah.
Like it was
Yes.
just all really new for me.
Yes.
So
Wow. And
yeah.
we're talking about getting off your bike to drink your water. Did you have clipless pedals at that time
Mhm.
or?
Oh my
Yeah.
God, I tipped over in so many intersections. I cannot tell you. I think
Yes.
all of them, to be honest.
Yeah. I
Like,
think everybody who's done the clipless transition has probably
oh,
experienced that at some point.
it's
Yeah.
it is crazy. Like I was thinking, like it's so wild that that's
Yeah.
what you do. And
Yeah.
then, when I was learning how to mountain bike, I was coming from road, so of course I was clipped in, and
That's
yikes.
scary.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Goodness. Well, we're glad you made your way to gravel, certainly. So I think we'll dive into it. We got definitely a lot of listener questions that I want to
I
dive
know. I
into.
could,
So
yeah. I
we've got
sort of
some fun
skipped
ones.
over. And then I got into gravel.
Yeah. And then she just took gravel by storm.
Yeah.
So I thought we could have Amanda ask our questions and kind of dive into a little bit of the nutrition and hydration stuff we've been working on. And then we can dive into your migration gravel
Yeah,
experience because that
totally.
was recent and epic, just a super, I feel like, unique experience.
Yeah.
So I'm going to let Amanda take the reins here.
Great.
Yeah, so I mean, we just kind of wanted to have you guys talk about our journey here as a, athlete with Nutritional Revolution. So before you started, working with Kyla, what were some of the things that you had issues with or struggled with? Like what made you come and ask for help?
Oh boy. Where do I begin? Well, I can confidently say before I worked with Kyla, you would say if in conversation with my peers, if anyone uttered the phrase grams of carbs per hour, my eyes would just sort of glaze over and I would exit the room as quickly as possible. I was just really not interested in, I'm just inherently not super into nutrition. Now I am in a very different way. And I kind of have learned that it was, well, I didn't kind of learn this. I felt this every time I would have a bonk towards the end of a race or have some GI problems. I mean, I truly can't tell you how many times that was fine in a bike race and last year. This is last year. And then I would just implode and the energy would get sucked out of my legs and I could barely finish the race. And it wasn't until the last race of the season at Big Sugar when one of my competitors and friends posted what she ate for the race. And I was like, it was like double what I eat. And I will tell you, she does not weigh twice as much as me. She's a little taller, but I was like, oh, this is something I really can work on. And because I'm not really inherently into it, I had heard some really great things about Kyla and I gave her a call and we had a chat. And I was like, I had sort of tried to work with another nutritionist before and they were just so in a different bucket than me. Like they're a great nutritionist, but I obviously am a little bit different. Like I'm not really interested in the like math and the numbers side of things. So I need someone to like sort of translate that language into like what, makes sense for me and to have it stick. And then, I put the work in. But does that answer the question? I sort of rambled.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, and I think we could talk about like what were some things that might have been that were surprising? Like you said, when you saw what your peer ate at that race and it was double, like when you started working with Kyla and she was, telling you things to help you meet your goals, like what were some of the things that your jaw dropped at or you were surprised at?
Yeah, well, I have to thank Kyla because she sort of like, I mean, really you took it like baby steps with me. She was like sort of holding my hand because I was like, okay, I can't do these things. I can't do this. Like, I don't want to do this. And then it sort of became like, okay, I actually one of the questions that you asked me stuck with me from the beginning, which is like, are you willing to like change and like make a habit out of this? And like, what are you willing to sacrifice basically? And not, I don't think you said sacrifice, but it was, what are you willing to change about your lifestyle and your habits? And that I was like, oh, this is very doable. And through the work that we did, so we started with like, okay, what does my training look like? What had I done before? What had I not been doing before? What sort of products was I using? And then we sort of just started building. I mean, we started working together in February, I think, January.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Well, was it even? Yeah, it was definitely before the season started.
Yeah,
It wasn't
no, for sure before the season.
Yeah.
Oh no, it was around Christmas because I remember I think I was like,
November,
how do
maybe?
I do this? Like, how do I manage a meal plan around Christmas time and like the holidays?
Yeah.
I was like, this is a funny time to start working with a nutritionist when it's just like all about
Yeah.
like gluttony and
The
and sugar.
holidays are hard, but
Yeah,
they,
but I have to say, like, it's like a coach, like I feel like I have someone in my court with my training, and I really feel like I have someone to bounce questions off of, and I feel very supported with every race. We sit down and make a game plan, and that's been huge. That's been huge because you can ask anyone who knows me really closely and probably not that closely. It's been in a couple of films that I've made how stressed was about a race plan,
mhm.
nutrition plan, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was a lot. Like
Yeah.
we've done a lot. It was like off the bike fueling and it
Mm.
was on the bike fueling. I learned the term gut training has been like a very commonly used term in this household now. And I've learned a lot and it's honestly like pretty confidence inspiring. So
Yeah. Do you remember how many grams of carbs per hour
I
we calculated that you were consuming like just when we started working together? Do you
think
remember?
was it under 30?
I think it was something like very low.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was like, I don't know, I think it was well under 30.
We've
And
made some changes.
what are you guys doing now?
We're around like 90 to
Yeah.
like 110.
She's hammering. She's hammering. Yeah. She's
Yes,
crushing it.
knocking those carbs down.
Yeah. She's crushing it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it has been crazy like to think about how much lifestyle change I've
Mm.
done. And I'm not really like diet is something that I really have never ever been able to change, to be
Hmm.
honest. And I haven't changed it a ton, but
Yeah.
like the recipes I've like implemented and like I kind of have an idea of how much protein I get daily and how to get protein. It's been a journey.
Hmm. Yeah. And I think too, from like a daily diet perspective, we did with all the like race nutrition foods, we learned, or I learned with our communication, Sarah loves her veggies and fiber, which is great, but we have to
Yeah,
time
fiber
it
has been a rough
accordingly.
one.
Yeah. We've been
Don't give
finessing
me
that one.
veg.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is great. I mean, goodness, there's so many antioxidants and all the
Totally.
leafy greens and veggies, and it's good
I'm
for the gut
learning how many
microbiome.
carbs are in a Chipotle burrito.
Who knew?
An insane amount.
Yeah.
And yet somehow not enough, which is great.
Yes. Yeah.
That
Wild.
was mind blowing.
That's
Like the
good.
first, yeah, because Mid South was the first race that it was sort of like the practice race, and you were like, "Hey, get ready, buckle up, carb loading." I've never carb
Yes.
loaded before.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, maybe we could touch on what that looked like too for, well, if you did, I'm not, I remember you got sick leading into migration gravel. So I don't know if you were able to carb load for that, but
Well, that was a whole other challenge,
yeah.
just being in a totally different country and
Yeah.
culture. But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it'll be interesting to talk about that
Yeah.
piece.
Amazing.
Um, so we kind of talked about how some of the things have changed as you've, worked with Kyla and kind of adjusted your strategies. But is there anything in particular, like massive changes, like obviously 30 grams to 90 to 110 grams? Like, how have you been navigating how that plan has changed, how, you eat while training and eat during your race plan?
Eating, I think the biggest thing that has changed is like what eating while training means and what eating while racing means and actually being aware. Like I've always had a notification on my computer that goes off every 20 minutes, but understanding that that is the difference between like bonking and not bonking, and like it can be the difference of 5 different places where I finish, because like I race somewhat between, like, I wouldn't call it ultra endurance because like that I sort of consider like bike pack racing, but like it's longer than like an XCO. I'm not just
Oh
racing
yeah.
for an hour to 2 hours. I'm racing from like 5 hours to 16 hours. So it's been like a lot of our fueling plans have spanned, some crazy logistics, and not one of our races is the same, which is a huge challenge for athletes racing the Grand Prix or just like racing a combination of endurance mountain bike and endurance gravel. Like it's all over the place. I mean, I won't throw in cyclocross to the mix anymore, but but yeah, it's like it's a huge part of my job. And I just lost my thread. What was I talking about? Oh, yeah, like having understanding like what it means to like prepare for a race. It actually happens, I think 10 weeks out was when we started gut training. And
Mhm.
that's just like teaching your body that like, oh no, we're not going to feel nauseous with all this sugar coming in. We're going to learn how to use it and like how to make it into like pushing the bike forward. And so it was kind of cool to see that. I have learned that like now that my body is fine tuned for like processing those carbs, if I don't have that on a ride, it is, I feel it
Yeah.
times 10. Like,
Mm.
especially training, you know, I think I had some like challenging interval sessions where I haven't fueled properly for those. And it's the difference between like crushing intervals and having it feel like a failure. So it's crazy how much I've learned that food is a huge part of my job.
Yeah, it is wild. I mean, the looking to at the literature, and we probably talked about this, is that all the races you're doing and many of your trainings are, we call them glycogen depleting
Mhm.
sessions. You're going to go through all the stored carbohydrate in your muscle, and if your muscle is not fully loaded from carb loading or a high carb diet, you're going to you can deplete that in 45 minutes. So
Checks
it,
out.
yeah, yeah, you can vouch for that. 90 minutes if it's more of like a moderate effort, but I mean, certainly something that you know, you're exposing yourself to. So carbs play a big role. And then, yeah, I think you've done a fantastic job with your like progression with your gut training over time, and for the listeners too, kind of with regards to gut training, is it's your body is so adaptable, but when we gut train, we physiologically are seeing differences from how fast the stomach empties into the small intestine, and then we're also seeing the increase in carbohydrate receptors lining the small intestine. So it's not just hammering more food, and are you actually utilizing it? You, to extent, yeah, we might see that some people aren't utilizing all of it if they're in excess of like 200 or something grams of carbs per hour, but we have tests from, what was it, the lactate test and
Mhm.
VO2 test stuff that you had done. So we could look at carbohydrate utilization at different power zones. So we know, we know where you're using. So
Mhm.
that's helpful.
Yeah, and like on the athlete side, and this is why I decided to work with a professional because everything that you just said is so above and beyond what I truly have the capacity, like, you know, the time to put into this. It's like I need someone that like can help guide like what I'm doing. And you know, if you get to the professional level of sport, it's awesome because you can like, you know, work with people that can help you do those things. But then, you know, at the amateur level and at the intermediate level, you know, it's you can just phase into everything. And it's really awesome to like get to learn different levels of information and like see how those things affect, you know, what you're doing and what you're trying to accomplish and, you know, what makes you feel good. Cause ultimately, like, you know, everything like mixes together and like your performance is, you know, what you, the best you could do on that day, you have to assume. But, and sometimes that's a win and sometimes that's, you know, not. But as long as like for me at least, if I feel like I've executed everything to the best of my ability, and that oftentimes includes nutrition now, it feels like a win for me.
Yeah.
And it's like, and on to the next.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
That's going to
exactly.
be totally different from the one that we just did.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. The fine tuning. I mean, that's why I do what I do, because I think that's fun. But I'm a weirdo
Totally.
that likes math and science. So, you know.
But and with your enjoyment and love of that, it's actually like helped me actually formulate like, oh, what is happening here? Like formulate questions and like questions for you and like questions about myself and my own body and like what's going on and what's working and what isn't working. It's like stuff that I had never even considered and thought
Yeah.
of.
Yeah.
And there's a whole group of my friends now that like understand how much more we all like. I think most people are probably under fueling
Oh
for their
yeah.
rides.
Oh
I know.
yeah.
Because I mean, I used to go on a 4-hour ride and bring like a peanut butter jelly sandwich. Like last year.
Yeah. Oh man. I mean, do you notice a difference with how you feel during your ride and after your ride too, throughout the rest of the day when you fuel appropriately during?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's this weird, and it's probably for women, there's some like disordered eating that goes
For
along
sure.
with this, and like the calorie deficit concept, and like,
Mm-hmm.
when you're competing in a power to weight sport, it's really a slippery slope to go down when you're
Yeah.
like trying to minimize how much, you're consuming and dropping weight, and that all gets mixed in. And so I think that there's a lot of breaking down those previous uh nope, those conceived ideas of like what that looks like for a training ride.
Yeah.
And it used to be just like, oh, if you burn more calories than you're putting in, then you're good to go. And it is so completely opposite of
Yeah.
that. And actually your body does some weird funky stuff if you're not fueling enough. And you and I have worked on like dropping weight for races,
Mm-hmm.
safely, and like
Mm-hmm.
very monitored, and making sure that I'm still getting the right amount of nutrients and fuel to actually, like, it's a fine line, if you're
Yeah.
playing with like your weight around a race season, and
Yeah.
recovery is a huge deal too. So what I will say to answer your question is, when I'm under fueling, I'm not only performing at a lower you know benchmark than I would like to be at, it takes me a lot freaking longer to recover from
Mm.
those rides, and recovering from a race where I'm under fueled. I mean, I know immediately when I cross the line now, when I get the nausea, like if I
Mm.
was dehydrated, which I think that's what we have decided what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's wild how quickly it happens too.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. I mean, yeah, we can dive into all
I
that. I
know.
mean, that could be a whole nother podcast episode. Okay, so why don't we dive into migration gravel
Yeah.
combo? Um, tell our listeners a little bit if they've never heard of migration gravel. What is it? Where is it?
Yeah.
What's the race terrain like? How many days? All that fun stuff.
Yeah, we learned this one together for sure, because migration is a gravel race. It's 4 days. It's in the middle of East Africa, outside of Nairobi, um, by like 8 hours, on the Maasai Mara, which is this amazing part of Kenya that is just remote and beautiful. And the Maasai people are wearing their like beautiful colored blankets, and not only cheering for us, but like race support. And you're racing on this like super gnarly safari double track, often going into single track. So it's sort of like a mountain bike gravel race. At least that's what it was this year. I've been told it was a lot rougher this year than previous years, but you're also sort of camping. Well, you were camping along the way as well. So it's just this crazy adventure race that I've always wanted to do. And this year came together. But I also wanted to win it, which was pretty ambitious, because there's a lot that can go wrong with races like that when you have 40 hours of travel to get places, and getting sick, and
Yeah.
dealing with just different food, and not knowing any information going in. I mean, it was truly wild, like actually wild.
And as I was following along on your Instagram journey too, if people haven't checked it out, definitely go check out Sarah's Instagram because she has some
Yeah.
great pictures from it. You kept talking about was it Safari Bingo?
Oh yeah, my safari bingo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell us about the
Oh,
Safari Bingo.
that is one of the truths.
Yeah.
Well, the first animal I saw in Africa was actually a small crab
Oh, really?
in the middle of this jungle. Um,
Whoa.
that was in the middle of Nairobi. And we were like in
Huh.
the heart of the city, and we found this like weird jungle like state park.
Hmm.
And we were like riding on this single track, and then a little crab ran out.
Oh,
That was the
wow.
first animal that I saw
That's
in
cool.
Kenya,
Little
which was
crab.
not, I was like thinking it was going to be a zebra, but nope, crab.
Wow. None of them on the plane ride, like in? Wow. Huh.
The coolest animal I've just well, we saw a lot. We saw a lot of baboons. We saw a lot of different types of a Columbus monkey. We
Oh,
saw a python, hippos,
wow.
axis deer, giraffe, elephants. I know. Oh, and then cheetah. We saw some cheetah.
Ooh.
Yeah, it
Do
was
you
wild. It was
see this
really
while you're
cool.
biking?
A lot of that we saw on one of our just like walking safaris that we did
Okay.
on one of the days on this island. But yeah, like we saw some of it while I saw giraffes while I was riding and zebras while I was riding. Thankfully no elephants. Apparently they're really dangerous, and they
Oh,
actually have the helicopters during the race go out on like ahead of the course to clear and make sure there aren't any elephants, because there were a couple of times where I was like very much alone and I was
oh my
like, this is
gosh.
scary.
Yeah, it makes you pedal faster, maybe.
Yeah, you're like, oh no, I'm like actually in the middle of
Yeah,
Africa. Like they don't, the animals don't care about that.
yeah.
Actually, the animals I think were mostly just like, what the heck is this?
A bicycle going by like a neon jersey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they were all really close though. Like, I mean, I
Wow.
think the weirdest animal still is the giraffe. That is
Yeah.
like the craziest looking animal that I saw.
Like the long neck.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And they have the
funny.
same amount of vertebrae as humans, I
In their
learned.
neck, right?
Mhm.
I think I heard that too. Fun
I was
fact.
like, damn.
Yeah. How does that make sense? That doesn't
Yeah,
seem right.
I know. Once again,
That's
math.
funny. Yeah. So with 4 days of back-to-back
Yes.
racing, what, I mean, how long are you out there riding for on a given day? And then what are you eating right after? What's around, what's available?
Yeah.
What you
Well, I
packing?
mean, as you know, we spent hours planning
Hmm.
together. So we were looking at previous course times, which it turns out it was much longer this year.
Yes.
But we had planned, for 6 to 8 hours, I think,
Hmm.
each day.
Yeah.
Um, Maybe like four being the shortest, but I think it was actually like fairly close. A couple days were like a couple hours
Hmm.
longer.
Yeah.
And so yeah, one of the biggest hurdles was actually packing all of that food, because I did the 4 days and then I was actually planning on doing a UCI race
Right.
a couple days before, but then I got sick for that. Happens, you're on
Yeah.
a plane for 40 hours. It's
Yeah.
you're bound to get something even when we wear a mask. So yeah, that was crazy. And I was like, I brought my recovery drink, but it was, a lot of unknowns. So we
Hmm.
actually prepared, and this ended up being like kind of a nice like safety net. And of course you have to be like kind of culturally sensitive. So I did a little bit of asking around before I
Mm.
did this, but I had brought backpacking meals with me as like just in case there aren't enough
Hmm.
carbs, there isn't like I'm getting hungry before
Hmm.
serving food, because you arrive from the first stage and then you're in this like group campsite essentially, and so they're cooking for you, which
Mm.
is awesome. You don't have to think about anything, but then you're also on their time. So
Yeah.
like as athletes, it's a very specific type of athlete that enjoys this type of race. You kind of have to relinquish all control. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of athletes enjoy having a lot of control. And you sort of have to like figure out some hacks, if you will. And for me, that was like, yeah, having some backup food. Like I had some backup breakfasts just in case, and I had some meals like mac and cheese with green chili. All my New Mexicans will appreciate that. And yeah, it was awesome. Like I definitely felt like I was able to get, because you're in a mega deficit and
Hmm.
your immune system is taxed. I brought all my little like probiotics with
Yeah.
me and
Good. Good.
pills and all the things.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're still just so fatigued, and
Yeah.
I think it's just inevitable you get sick, because
Mm.
you're like everyone's like stressing their system and
Yeah.
you're in this like camp setting together. So
Man. And you were eating how many backpacking meals a night?
I was eating a backpacking breakfast and then our like camp breakfast, which it was always like
Yeah.
really good. Like there was great carbs. You have to
Hmm.
be like kind of just okay with like runny grits in the morning and
Yeah.
like, watery oatmeal and like
Yeah.
weird stuff that you don't know how to pronounce. But it was great. There was one
Yeah.
thing I just didn't eat because I don't think I actually could have swallowed it.
Jeez.
And it was the goat intestines for me that I just really couldn't. I
Yeah.
made the mistake of smelling it, honestly. I think that was what I went.
Mm.
And then
Well,
I
your
just
nose
like
is your
made the
best.
smell out of it
Yeah.
just was, but honestly, we had a lot of goat and goat was it was great. And like I
Yeah.
have to say, like if the animal has to die, like you might as well use every part of it. So I really
Yes.
respect that. I just, you know,
Yeah.
I'm not an Anthony Bourdain. I can't eat everything.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Oh,
I was eating, I should know how many carbs I was eating a day, but it was like kind of chaos. So
yeah. Yeah.
a lot.
I mean, yeah, in those situations you manage, yeah, with what you can and as best as you can.
They had great food, honestly. I
Yeah.
really enjoyed it. They had enough protein and plenty of carbs. They had like their own version. Oh, I forgot the names of everything. They were like chapitas or something like that. They
Oh,
were like these donuts that
yeah.
were
Oh,
good. And they
nice.
basically had these like other tortilla like things, so papilla sort of,
Yum.
grains. And then they, oh, I suck. I should know the names of this. I remembered them when I was there, but
Yeah.
it was like this puck of cornmeal
Oh,
basically that
cool.
were, when they were done well, they were really, really good. They were
Yeah.
just like a big puck of starch and
Yeah.
carbs. So
Oh,
they were
that's
awesome.
like
Yeah.
kind of like reminds me of like polenta almost or
Yes, it was exactly. It was
yeah.
like their version of polenta. It
Nice.
was really good.
That's great. Yeah, good
Mhm.
carb source for sure.
Yeah.
Um, with the race itself, 4 days back to back, what were some of your products, like fueling products that you brought to use down there or hydration products that you were using on course that you liked?
Yeah, I mean, I raced with a pack, obviously, and I really relied on my drink mix. I love Flow. It has
Mhm,
like a pretty like tolerable flavor for day in, day out. I actually
mhm,
brought two different flavors because
mm,
sometimes it's nice to like fill a pack with, one flavor and swap it around. And for me, I always kind of do like a mixture of like drink carb mix, high carb mix. I would do like 90 grams of carbs per bottle, and then, excuse me, water in my pack. Or like sometimes I swap that around based on like what I thought the train was going to be like, or how
mhm.
easy it is to refill. A bottle
Yeah.
versus a pack is obviously you have to take that into
Yeah.
consideration. But yeah, then I brought a ton of Never Second gels. I had a lot of Martin caffeinated gels just for like the emergency, like
Yeah.
to like get this going. And then
Yes.
a lot of, I really love the Power Bar gels, or
Mhm.
sorry, the
The
chews.
shoes. Yeah.
Um, yeah, just for something different. And then I also just, because I wasn't really sure what I was gonna want, I brought a lot of like bars, like
Mhm. Mhm.
Sturker bar. I love those. And then the Martin bars, just a mixture of a
Yeah.
ton of different stuff. And then like even just like Krager brand, like peanut butter, salted peanut butter bar that you find at the grocery store too.
Nice. That's great. Yeah, good variety. I mean, certainly when you're
Yeah,
out there for that long and yeah,
variety, because you
that's
just
good.
don't know, like, and I learned even by the end, I was kind of getting like my body was sort of rejecting some of
Yeah.
it. By the end, you're just like
Yeah.
so sick of eating.
Yeah. I mean, 4 days, no
Well,
matter what you eat back to back with that level of exertion is such a stress on the gut.
yeah, that checks
So
out.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
never had like acid reflux before,
Oh
but I was
God.
like truly motivated to finish the race, not just to like win, but
Yeah.
mainly to not have to eat any more shells.
Yes. Oh man. And for our listeners, how did the race go overall?
Yes, I came away with the win, which is really
Yay.
exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Yay. It was funny to win that one because it was such an adventure too that it sort of felt like, I mean, I'm proud of the result and I like worked really hard for it. Like we put a lot into that, but
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's definitely like it is more about the experience,
Yeah.
and it's a nice little cherry on top to
Hmm.
have the win. It's something so crazy and
Yeah.
adventurous. So,
Yes.
yeah. Yeah, it was
Amazing.
awesome.
Woohoo. Okay, so what are the upcoming races for you got
Yeah.
lined up this year?
Yeah, well, winning migration put me in the running for the Gravel Earth Series overall. So I think I'm sitting second now.
Nice.
And I'll be at the final. So we have one more race in that series.
Okay.
That's in October outside of Barcelona. And
Ooh,
then my most recent race coming up is Leadville 100 mountain bike race. So
awesome.
that is an emotion-packed race for me.
Yeah. Oh
And
man.
then yeah, a couple more Lifetime Grand Prix races. Yeah, I might go to Gravel Worlds. I might try to
Awesome.
go to UCI Worlds, but probably not. Just kind of looking at the schedule and wanting to
Yeah.
prioritize. You have to pick and choose the ones that you
Yes.
want to do. So I think
Yeah.
this year will be Gravel Earth Series and Lifetime Grand Prix.
Nice. Yeah. And you're some time to for the body to recover
Yeah, I always
between
forget that you
events.
have to leave time for recovery.
Yes.
Dang
Yeah.
it.
Yes. Okay, so we had a bunch of fantastic listener questions. We may have
Yeah,
answered some of these, but I'll fire some of these off for you. Let's see. How do you balance the high carb revolution in training while controlling body weight?
that's a good question. Well, I mean, we don't always do a ton of gut training. So it's not like every single training ride I'm going on, I'm slamming 100 grams of carbs.
Right.
And really, like when we're in the race season, we're sort of there. So I'm doing like one ride a week where I'm getting like maximum carbs.
Hmm.
And for those rides, I do like to use like the stuff that I'm racing with. I feel like
Hmm.
that works really well. And then for just like, my general like filler rides, we'll call them. Yeah, I sort of try to balance like a mixture of like I'll eat a lot more bars and not just do straight gels
Yeah.
to the face, just to save my teeth and
Yeah.
and yeah, just kind of give a little bit more variety and making sure I'm getting proper fuel in. But yeah, it's not like every single ride I'm going on, I'm not doing 110 grams per hour.
Yes. Awesome. And then let's see, do you incorporate any strength training or weightlifting into your training routine?
Oh yeah, that's been a new one too the last couple years.
Yeah. What,
I got on
how
that train
often?
late too. But
Yeah.
yeah, I work with ever athlete,
Mm.
Matt Smith. He's awesome.
Mhm.
But yeah, he's great. He gives me like a very workable strength program, which obviously like in the early season I hit much harder, and then
Mhm.
during the season it's sort of just like some maintenance. I have some like neck issues that I have to
Mhm.
deal with, so I try my best to do some of that like more PT based work
Yeah.
during the season. And then like, the last month I've done like a couple weight sessions, but it's sort of tough because you have to like balance it with like recovery too, because you can
Yes.
get pretty sore.
Yeah, yeah. And let's see, this one might be a little bit on that same note. What's a typical training week like?
Yeah.
Maybe how many like long rides or interval
Yeah, I mean, it
sessions?
depends on what part of the season. Like earlier in the spring season when I'm doing base training, I mean, I was getting up to 30-hour weeks, which
Mhm.
is not a thing now. I'm not doing that, but yeah, I would say like normal for base is like 20 to 30 hours a week.
Mhm.
For me, I just like it. And then during the race season, it's oftentimes I take Mondays off,
Mhm.
which is my admin day and like go hang out with my dog day. It's definitely not as like restful as I probably could be. And then yeah, like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is sort of a mixture of like a couple hard interval days and then an endurance day. And then Thursday, Friday is depending on like what we're trying to like work for is like, a harder endurance ride or a harder interval ride and then kind of a chill ride. And then the weekend is usually like longer rides.
Awesome. All right.
That
And then
answer.
that's
I've
perfect.
never been able to answer that question very well. So
No, that was great. I mean, I can visualize your training peaks also, so maybe
yeah, yeah,
easier for me
Kyla
to
looks at
interpret, but
that.
okay, let's see, would Sarah eat any solid food at all for a 200-kilometer plus ride, or do you just do all fluid gels and chews?
Hmm. I mean, A ride, like just a normal ride, for sure. Like I would eat normal food. And like it depends on what type of ride it is. Like I was stopping at a lot of gas stations in Arizona. Just because you're not, yeah, you
Yeah.
don't want to eat just
What
ride
was
food.
the what pizza bagel bites? I mean, does that count as
Oh
real
yeah,
food?
I love those. I truly need to like start bringing those on actual rides. This year at Unbound, I didn't eat a single one. I
Yeah.
prepared them. I
Yeah.
really thought like I really did Unbound on gels and drink mix,
Yeah.
which I
Yeah.
never thought I would. A crazy turn of events from last year where I ate like 16 bagel bites.
Little
But
change
I
of
did
pace
have them.
here.
They were at the
Yeah.
beach and it just was
Yes.
like a much different race. We went like 2 hours faster. So I never
Yeah.
got to the point where I needed my rescue bagel.
That was an awesome race.
But
Very
yeah,
incredible.
real food for sure.
Yes.
On the long ride day, like yeah, I look in the fridge. Like sometimes I bring banana bread, dates,
All
that sort of
right.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. This one maybe is a little bit more not necessarily nutrition related, but it says best tip for not folding under pressure while
Mm.
caring a lot about pursuing potential.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that's something that, I mean, as we watch the Olympics, I think that's something that every athlete has to balance no matter what level,
Yeah.
because I think you always hold like what you want to do, like sometimes that's winning an Olympic gold medal,
Hmm.
knowing that like every single other person in that race is also trying to do that same thing. So you have to have other goals too. Like, I want to do these things well. And like, I want to execute this. And so you have to have something else that's not just the final race result as like a marker of value. And I think the pressure thing, I mean, for me, it's, kind of the zinger word because like the more the more wins you accumulate, and
Hmm.
the more support that you get, the more pressure there
Yeah.
is inevitably. Um, but the one good thing about always having been so competitive is that I've always put the same amount of pressure on myself. So I'm really used to having a lot of pressure. Because like even if I like line up for like a local cyclocross race, I'm like just as nervous as I am for like Leadville, which
Yeah.
I know sounds insane, but it's just that like I mean it is insane, but I just want to do what I tell myself, and this is I feel really confident, even if like, I feel like I let people down, but like if I leave it all out there, like if I really try my hardest, there's always going to be something you can improve on. But
Hmm.
as long as I like give everything and never give in like mentally to when it gets really hard, and there's been a ton of races that I've given in mentally,
Hmm.
then I feel like really accomplished and the pressure seems to sort of dissipate because you kind of just can do what you can do.
Yeah, that's great. That's a good answer. I like that. Okay, how do you ensure a good night's sleep before a big race?
Oh,
Eh,
I don't
Not a
think
lot of
that
athletes have
exists.
mastered that, I don't
I
think.
don't know if that exists. I
Yeah.
truly like, I think for me, and I worked on this with my therapist a ton, was, you just have to accept that like there's going to be nerves, there is pressure, like, especially when it's your job, like
Hmm.
you have to know how to perform within that. And I kind of anticipate that a good night's sleep will come after the race.
Yeah.
Sometimes that doesn't happen,
Yeah.
depending on how long it is. But I think you just kind of have to know, like, I won't look at any data. Like I've used the Whoop before and
Mm,
I don't look at any sleep data because you just until after.
just
And then you
smart.
kind of use it as proof. You're like, wow, I've raced Leadville and
Yeah.
we're sleeping at 10,000 feet. So like
Hmm.
that's already against you and you're nervous. So I've
Hmm.
done Leadville on 3 hours of sleep
Oh
and gotten
gosh.
my, second place there.
Yeah. Woke
So
up in the red on Whoop and
yeah. Oh, I
yeah.
feel like I was gonna say something with that. Yeah, you can do a lot with very little sleep. Obviously, the accumulation of that is bad, but like you just kind of don't sleep the night before.
Yeah. Yeah. Shoot. Yeah, that's a hard one to figure out. Okay, so we got some maybe more personal ones. Ketchup on mac and cheese, yes or no?
Mm-mm. I'm
Mm.
not a ketchup person. We have it at our house for our friends who like it when we have barbecues, but we don't love ketchup.
Are you a mustard person?
Huh?
Are you a mustard person?
Yes, and
Okay.
horseradish, love.
Yeah. Awesome. This person says, have you had Dion's Pizza in Albuquerque?
Yes.
Awesome.
Host every uh, soccer game and swim meet.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay. And then this person says, how do you eat, or maybe what do you eat in the 2 to 3 hours pre and early morning start?
Yes. Well, before I worked with Kyla, I feel like I had a lot of fiber.
Yeah. What was a typical breakfast before?
Oh God, I've done so many different iterations of things. Like I would have like eggs and toast, and then eggs got super hard
Mm,
to like get down the gullet. I've done a lot of oatmeal, but then I think the oatmeal that I was always drawn to always had a lot of fiber in
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Like the oatmeal with flax and like,
Hmm.
just trying to like, you don't really look for the healthy stuff.
Yeah.
And right now, what I found that really works too, is like a bowl of granola with like oat milk or
Hmm.
almond milk, or like I actually can tolerate yogurt and granola before a
Hmm.
race. I am not a pancake person. I know
Mm.
like people are gonna come for me in the comments. They already have.
Yeah.
It just makes me like so shaky and weird.
Mm.
But yeah, I've done yogurt on pancakes before, and that actually helps with a little bit of protein balanced. It's
Nice.
just
Yeah.
usually so much carb.
Yeah.
And I just try to eat like an hour and a half to 2 hours before the early morning starts. That will
Hmm.
be the reason I retire.
Yeah. Eating up gets also your
Well,
digestive system is not used to eating that early too, which is hard for a
no,
lot of
it
people.
sucks. And people,
Yeah.
you worry about like, God, you just want to poop before, because you don't have to think about that stuff when you're
Yeah.
racing. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't
Shoot.
know. Maybe it's worth like practicing.
Yes. Yeah, certainly. Okay, this person asked, what's your nutrition plan for Leadville and how is it different from last year?
Well, we actually have our call tomorrow to go
Sarah and I
over
are going to
like
check in tomorrow. Yeah.
the specifics, but I can already tell you, as I talked about before, I think in years past, I would have maybe actually even tried to like guess around like 100 grams of carbs an hour. Like
Mm-hmm.
I was probably just trying to eat a gel every 20
Mm-hmm.
minutes, and like
Yeah.
drink mix. But now it'll be, I'll actually have some gut training behind me and know which products work for me.
Yeah.
I've done everything from like, the Scratch Labs rice cakes for Leadville that
Mm-hmm.
actually worked other than trying to get the rice into your mouth.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think already, even though we haven't talked through like the specific plan, and I know some of the feed zones have actually kind of changed this year.
Mm.
Yeah, we're gonna aim for that 90 to 100 grams of carbs an hour. And yeah, just a mixture of all the products that I know that have been working for me. So,
Yeah.
um, Spring Energy, I know there's some drama around spring,
Yes.
but I still really like it as a bit of a palate cleanser, and it's still
Hmm.
some carbs.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
and Flow really works for me. I will probably be doing mostly, um, almost exclusively mix in my bottles because it's usually not an incredibly hot race.
Hmm.
And then, yeah, the
Awesome.
normal gels and goodness.
We'll get it all dialed
Yeah,
tomorrow.
yeah.
Okay. And then let's see, do you ever find it hard to change how you eat when you're training versus not training? Imagine maybe like training blocks or maybe off season versus in season.
Yeah, I mean, obviously like when I'm racing during the season, like you're just eating a ton, and it's a balance between like, trying not to overeat because like your metabolism is firing, but you're
Hmm.
also trying to like maintain a healthy and competitive weight. So there's like some portion control, but like, I mean, not enough to like make you bummed about your life. Like, and for me, it's all in moderation. Like,
Yeah.
if I really want to drink a glass of wine, I'm gonna have a glass of wine.
And get a tattoo upstairs at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. Love that and plug.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I think you kind of have to live, and well, for me, it's a glass of wine doesn't stress me out.
Yeah.
For some athletes, they would be like totally stressed with like alcohol is not good for you. You probably shouldn't drink, but like, I don't know, sometimes I get like super stressed and like it actually feels like a normal person thing to just have like a little bit of red wine at night. So
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
do that. And it doesn't like vary a ton. Like actually when I'm not racing, it's actually harder for me to like manage like what I'm eating because you're just like you're used to like doing all this training and racing and stuff. So the holidays are actually kind of hard because you're just like, oh, I'm not like burning all these calories, but I want to, maintain,
Yeah.
health. So that's
Yeah.
why I love veggies so much.
Fill up on those veggies. Okay. Let's see. Our next question says, what's the worst meal you've eaten pre-race that worked well?
I mean, I don't know about worse, but I've like slammed some hamburgers before.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
That
impressive.
was like back in my cyclocross days where it was just like a little bit risky, but
Yeah.
it was such a short race that I don't know. You're just like, it's what I have in front of me. So
That's
it's like where
impressive.
the team is eating. I have like I would say like that is not a thing for me anymore. Like I'm not gonna slam a hamburger at like 4 in the morning.
Yeah. Maybe that is something though that sounds more appealing to somebody to eat than like a stack of, although the bread meat just seems like it feels so
Oh,
heavy. Yeah.
yeah. I don't think it was an enjoyable experience. It was definitely not before an important race, I'll tell you that much. I'm trying to think, my I feel like, oh gosh, I can't remember what she ate. My teammate Teal, she used to race for Luna back in the day,
Mm.
and she was always sort of known for like eating the weirdest, yeah, like oh god, I feel like she ate like a bunch of. Oh, I'll have to ask Magali because I think she was the one who teased her about it. But they were
Oh,
just like, "Oh my god, are you eating like a bowl of like hot yogurt before
oh
this
my
like short
God.
track in the afternoon?" Like they
Oh
were just like, "What
no.
is she doing?" It was like a lot of
Yeah.
dairy, I think.
Huh. Wow. Yeah, some
Yeah.
people can totally like get away with certain things. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I usually have like a pretty okay gut, knock on wood.
Yeah. Knock on wood. Okay. Favorite real food on rides?
Honestly, the pizza bagel
Yeah.
place. I used to say peanut butter jelly. I do
Mm.
love a PBJ.
Hmm.
I also got into like making these little like sourdough bagels. So I would
Mm.
do like sourdough bagel just like on its own, or like
Hmm.
sometimes with just some jelly. Sometimes I just, did the cream cheese thing because you can't really say no
Yeah.
to bagel and cream cheese.
Yeah.
Now
That's
that I've
great.
like totally talked shit on Teal eating dairy.
But you're doing it during a ride. She was doing it before.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know what's better, but yeah, I
Yeah,
got really into like baking and baked goods, and so it's like so awesome to just
that
bring
is
that
great.
stuff with you.
I like the sourdough bagel. That's a great idea.
Yeah. Mhm.
Um, okay, so we said, okay, we already covered how many calories per hour you eat on the bike, um, base carbs per hour. Night before the race, what are you eating?
Yeah, let's see, what have we done?
Well, we're usually carb loading to some extent in the days
Yeah,
prior.
definitely. And I've learned like what that means, like which I do 3 days. I've learned a lot of
Yes.
people do 2 days out.
Yeah.
I would say most people do two, but we do three, which is nice because usually it's
Yeah.
like travel day and then you get there and that's like the big day. And
Hmm.
then you have like the day before, which is like a little bit less carb
Yeah.
intensive. But I love like a pasta with like a little bit of protein. I still add in like a little bit of vegetables to that, but not a ton.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
Moderation.
like easy. For
Yeah.
me, I'm like, the race weekend is not about getting creative with
Hmm.
food. I just kind of want to get the shopping done with, or like
Yeah.
just know what works for me, which is usually like a basic carb, like a rice or a pasta. And then
Hmm.
I throw a chicken sausage on top of that, and then like maybe spice it up with a sweet potato and a broccoli.
Nice. Yeah. And too, for the
Pretty
listeners,
boring.
like the portion too that you're doing is not to make up like all your carbs. Like we have been loading for
Right.
multiple days beforehand. So we're really front loading those carbs.
Yeah, the days of like big pasta, eat
Hmm.
pasta, go fasta.
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
days are sort of like gone a little
Yeah.
bit. You're not just like gorging yourself
Yeah.
because then you really won't sleep well. too,
Yes.
if you're just like slamming carbs before and
Hmm.
you're like nervous. Ugh,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
is a way to kill a favorite meal for sure. If you're
Yeah.
just like trying to like shove it down your gullet and you're
Mm.
nervous and you have to get sleep. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes. Okay, last question from the listeners. How do you detox from a race after eating all the sugary foods?
Yeah, well, I also like I met with my dentist too because I was like, I'm eating this is a lot of sugar
Yeah.
consumption in liquid form, in gel form, in gummy form, literally every form that they tell you
Yeah.
not to eat for your teeth. So I
Shoot.
actually do like a prescription toothpaste before I race.
Oh, that's
Just
smart.
hot tip.
Yeah.
I don't know, hopefully it helps.
Hmm.
But yeah, after the race, you're just like you're so overeating sugar, you just want salty stuff.
Yeah.
And then we do a combination of two different products. I'll do Swiss RX Gut Health,
Hmm.
like right after a race. It just like helps rebalance
Yeah.
everything because like man, that sugar is just so
Yeah.
gnarly for your
Yeah.
system. And we'll do that for like a couple days or a week,
Hmm.
and then I take a daily probiotic after that. You don't have to like double dose, you're just kind of
Yeah.
wasting your money with
Yeah.
that. But the gut health stuff is, yeah, is awesome. So I
Yeah.
do that.
And then we
And
just
then
start
veggies.
ramping those, yeah, veggies and fiber back up. Help with
Yeah.
the
They
feed the
call it
gut
the
bug.
rainbow, eat the rainbow. I think that's
Exactly.
like, you're just so looking forward to like crunchy vegetables, or at least I'm really not that into veggies. It sounds like I am, but I think just after eating so much ride food,
Yeah.
you're like, oh,
Yeah.
give me lettuce.
Yeah. Some real food. Okay, so I'm gonna go through some rapid fire questions for you, and then we're gonna find out your lie to your two truths and a lie. So we can swing through these ones fast. Big climb or fast flats?
Big climb.
All right. Hydration pack or bottles?
Oh, I always go with pack. I always
Sure.
go with pack. I'm a doomsday prepper. I like to just have water.
And lots of water. Okay.
I just like to
Y-
have options.
Yes. Okay. Energy bars or gels?
Oh, I am a gel person now. I never thought
Yeah.
I would answer it that way, but
Yes.
gels for racing,
Yeah.
for training bars.
Oh, perfect. Savory or sweet?
Oh, well, I have to do sweet for races because I haven't
Yeah.
really found a great savory option, but
Yeah.
mostly savory.
Have you tried any of the sour products that some of the companies are coming out with? Like, is it, I think Cliff Blocks just came out with like a sour version of their Cliff Box.
I'm gonna try it. I was just gonna say I was sort of like turned off by the savory options. I think
Mhm.
Cliff did like a pizza flavored gel
I
one
kind of
year.
remember that.
It was so gnarly. I think it was just like marinara sauce,
Oh man.
which honestly probably would be fairly good other
Oh
than the
man.
fiber.
Yeah. With the acidity in there.
If you can like gag it down, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Post-ride recovery shake or real food meal?
I like both. I actually just did both. I like the horchata from Scratch Labs and
Oh
like
yeah.
throw a banana in there if you're in a rush, which I
Mhm.
always am, and then I do the real meal. But actually, when we were doing mega spring training, we were doing real food, so a
Awesome.
mixture of protein and carbs.
I like that. More
Ate a lot of
micronutrient dense.
oats
Yeah.
with a lot of protein powder and a lot of berries.
Amazing. Good antioxidants, fiber,
Yeah.
you're covering the bases. Okay, lycra or casual riding gear?
You know, I've come full circle. I'm back into the lycra. It is
Yeah.
actually more comfortable. I'm a sweaty girl and it sucks to sweat in denim.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. That's a good point.
But you know,
Uh,
like the cool girl in me is like casual all the
yeah.
way. But no, I'm
Yeah.
old enough. Lycra, it's comfy.
Yep. All right. Training at altitude or training in high heat or high humidity?
Oof. No, I cannot do high humidity.
Mm,
And I've been training at high heat and at high altitude. So I'll just combo those.
okay. All right.
Sometimes like high altitude, then mix it in with the sauna.
Yes. Good, good. Riding in the rain or in the wind?
Ooh, rain, 1,000%. We hate the wind.
I had a feeling I knew the answer to that one. Okay,
Yeah.
so we'll finish it out here with your two truths and a lie. So you said you were correct my lingo here. You were on the winning New Mexico jump rope team, the Jumping Beans.
Uh-huh.
Did I say that right? It's a tongue twister.
Yeah.
You practiced Brazilian martial arts for 5 years and you were the state champ for breaststroke in the 10 to 12-year-old age group.
Yeah.
All
Nailed
right.
it.
And we said the swim one was the lie. Yeah.
All right. Well, it was a tricky one because I was on the New Mexican Jumping Beans jump rope team, but we did not win a state championship.
Wait, what age was this?
I was so young. I don't even know, like, I think elementary school.
Oh
Like, I'm
my
pretty sure
gosh.
we just like jumped into the double dutch.
Oh my
Just
gosh.
like
That's amazing. I like didn't even know that was we did not have a jump rope team where I grew up. I'll tell you that.
yeah, there's not a lot to do in Albuquerque, so
So
there's a
you,
ton. I did a lot of different sports as a kid. I did
yeah,
all of those things, but
yeah. So you
yeah.
do Brazilian, is
Yeah, I
Brazilian
did.
martial arts,
Yeah,
like,
I
is that
practiced
jujitsu?
capoeira for 5 years.
Oh,
Hmm.
that's where you probably get the handstand skills
That's where I got the
from.
handstand. I know. I was like, oh my God, that's so funny that she talked
Yes.
about the handstand.
Yeah. Okay. And then
Yeah.
you were a swimmer.
Mhm.
Cool. That's amazing.
Yeah, and then I sort of gave that away with the triathlon. That's always my
Everybody
joke
slips
about
up
triathlon.
somewhere.
Just
Yeah.
hated. It's funny watching all the swimming at the Olympics. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
PTSD from all those years
Oh
of
gosh.
5 a.m. swim team practice.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Man.
I have to say, like, I was only fast as like a junior, and then I hit puberty, and then just I looked exactly the same. I pretty much looked like this. I just got slower.
Darn puberty.
Rough for girls.
Yes, it really is.
Guys
There
get made
is like,
faster.
yeah, there's a statistic, I think, where they say like there's a large percentage of girls that drop out of sports at like when they
Totally.
go through puberty because that stuff happens. But
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
yeah.
All the girls got way slower and all the guys got really fast.
Ugh,
So
just
annoying.
gotta learn to work with our
But
cycles.
then we just worked harder.
Yeah, good. There you go. Crush it. Okay, where can our listeners find you, follow you, all that fun stuff?
Yeah, I would say I'm most active on Instagram. Although I do dabble in some TikTok.
Oh, good for you.
But mainly just to follow politics and
Oh, that's good. Yeah, yeah.
and the Olympics.
Nice.
But yeah, those are the two places. Well, just Instagram, we'll just say that. I'm sad that I just admitted that I want to do that.
What's your Instagram handle for the listeners?
Yeah, I believe it's Sarah Sarah Sturmy, Sturmy.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome. We'll link that in the show notes for our listeners. And yeah, this has been so fun. So
Yeah,
thank you
thank
so
you
much for
guys.
hopping on here with, I know you're a busy lady, so
No,
we
it's good.
definitely
All I have to do
appreciate
is
it.
eat this bowl of salmon and quinoa and cottage cheese.
Love it. Love it. Amazing. Awesome. Well, thank you again so much, Sarah. This has been rad.
Yeah, thank you guys.